everybody, if you're new here, I'm Emily Pulcastro. I'm a writer, filmmaker, and traveler, and I thought it'd be really fun to just do a cozy little kind of vlog day tour. I've just been absolutely loving writing in cafes. There are so many different cafes here in Savannah. There's something different when you go to a cafe, open up your laptop, and I just feel so much more creative. I think because there's the ambiance in the cafes are all different. You know, you have a nice cup of coffee or a nice tea in your hand, and you can really just focus on you and your work, which I think is really important. One of the things I kind of want to talk about in this video is my writing process. So recently I just finished a final edit of my new book, which the title will be coming out very, very shortly. I'm very excited. The only thing I can say about it is that it is a young adult fantasy adventure novel, and I'm very excited to do that. I've already sent it to my professional editor, so I have a few months kind of in between where I don't really have to think about this book, and I'm gonna give it that breathing room. So I'm starting on some new stories. And while I was kind of in this process of thinking of some new story ideas, I thought it would be a lot of fun if I took you guys through my writing process. Something that's really important to me when it comes to my writing process is my environment. Environment is huge because you have to be able to be in an environment where you can focus and really start to connect creatively. For example, when I'm at home, what I love to do is make the surroundings really cozy. Like, especially at night, I like to turn off all the overhead lights, turn on a couple of dim candles and such, maybe turn on a fireplace, get all cozy. I love to put on ambient worlds playlists because I feel like they really set you within a mood of a specific scene or story that you're writing. I always have music on when I write. I think it really helps me just block out the rest of the world and really immerse myself within that world. So that's like definitely the first thing, is make your environment super cozy. I think that's really important when you're starting a new story. Another thing is, if you can't make your environment cozy, definitely go to a fun cafe. Cafes are just a great place where you can go to someplace new, get a fun coffee or tea, and the best thing is you can most cafes, you can sit in them for as long as you want. So it's really great too, because there's a lot of energy and other ambient things happening around you, but I feel like in cafes I can really focus on the work in front of me. So once my environment is kind of set, then it's time to launch into, right now, it's gonna be a new story. And new stories for me kind of happen in a bunch of different ways. Usually I draw inspiration from images that I've seen, or from a recent movie I just watched, or a video game. Anything can kind of trigger that initial spark of inspiration. And once I have even just an image, so the book that I'm currently kind of starting to work on and get some ideas for, there's a specific vibe of an environment that I know I wanted to capture. And so once I had this image in my mind of a place, then I started to kind of form, okay, what could go on in this place? What could this environment say for the characters, say for the story? And then after I do that, then I can really try and start to flesh out a fuller story. So another really important part of my writing process is I go on walks. I go on a lot of walks, especially when I'm stuck creatively, or even if I just need to get some creative juices flowing. I just go on a walk and listen to some music, and I just think about the story. I think about my act structure, I think about what could happen and the characters, and then when I go home, I set up my environment all nice and cozy, and then I just write. And so I know that sounds a lot easier said than done, but I think it can really help when you just don't think about everything before you start writing. I think it can be really intimidating when you feel like you need to have everything pre-planned in order to start writing a script or a book or anything. But in reality, I think there's something really freeing about just having a spark of an idea and then writing the first thing that comes to mind. That first thing doesn't have to be in your final work. Usually it probably isn't, because it's gone through 25 different variations from your first initial idea to the very end. But I think just letting yourself be creative and letting yourself kind of make mistakes, or just just off the cuff write. I think that's really important when you're starting a creative project. So I just kind of wanted to go down that creative process because I thought it was something interesting and worth bringing up for people who might be interested in starting to write. And I think this process can go for a lot of different majors or creative fields. But okay, now that we've kind of talked a little bit about my creative process, I really want to go into what I've been reading this year so far. So I started off the year really strong with reading a lot of books, and then as soon as I got to SCAD to start my graduate degree, my reading kind of tampered off a little bit just because of all of the work and the schoolwork and meeting new people and such. But I'm happy to say that after I went to E. Shaver's Bookstore in Savannah, which is this amazing locally owned bookstore, I got a bunch of books and I've instantly started to read them. So I did kind of want to go through some of the books that I've already started reading this year. So the first one is going to be Tokyo Dreaming by Emiko Jean, and this is a sequel to the book Tokyo Ever After. I absolutely loved this duology. It's basically like Princess Diaries but set in Japan. So Azumi is the name of our lead protagonist, and she's a high schooler and she realizes that her dad is the crown prince of Japan, and of course chaos ensues. You know, there's a fun like love story mixed in between, but also there's a lot of themes about just like growing up and staying true to yourself, and also like kind of not fitting in quite with her American background, but also not quite fitting in when she goes to Japan. So I think it's a really, really fun read. I sped through this literally on the plane and while I was in Japan. So it was really fun to read this while I was on that trip. I highly recommend this duology though. If you like romance, if you like just fun reads, especially that have a strong sense of place. Like when you're reading this book, you really feel like you're in Japan. You know, the way Jean describes these locations are incredible. So yeah, Tokyo Dreaming and Tokyo Ever After, that's the duology, and I highly recommend it. So next is going to be the Simon Snow trilogy by Rainbow Rowell. So this is the third book in the Simon Snow trilogy. It's called Any Way the Wind Blows. The first one is Carry On, and the second one is going to be Wayward Sons. And oh my God, if I can express to you my love for this series, it is fantasy, but it's also mostly just a romance. So these books kind of take the whole like magic school. At least in the first book, you're kind of introduced to Simon Snow, who's a mage, and he goes to a magic school, and you think that's kind of like, it's kind of gonna go the Harry Potter route, but no, instead it goes full on romance between Simon Snow and his roommate Baz, who is a vampire, and just the dialogue is written so incredibly beautifully. Like these characters are so well fleshed out and they have so much personality, and I could literally just read scenes upon scenes upon scenes of Simon Snow and Baz just talking to each other. So I highly recommend, if you like romance, if you like fun fantasy, it's not like an overly serious book, but it does have some amazing themes about, you know, the feeling of not being good enough for others or for yourselves. It tackles those themes really well. So if you love all of that, I highly recommend Rainbow Rowell's trilogy, the Simon Snow trilogy. But this is one of my favorite books that I have read so far because it was just truly delightful. And then I'm kind of late to the game, but I did finish the Percy Jackson series as well this year. So this was the last book I finished, Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I also read The Labyrinth, Battle of the Labyrinth this year as well. And these books were just so much fun. Like, it has the world building of Harry Potter where there's a lot of just really fun and quirky like scenes that happened in Greek mythological creatures, and a bunch of cast of characters of all the gods, and it's really fun to see all of the kids interacting. And I love too that most of the book is set in America. It just kind of gives a whole new like perspective on a bunch of different American cities where all these like crazy things are happening in Greek mythology. So it's a really fun series. I wanted to read these books before the new show came out. And I'm really glad I do. The one thing I will say about the last book, The Last Olympian, is the entire book is basically like the final battle. So it was really good and I'm very satisfied by the ending, but I wish there were just some more scenes of the kids just talking without like a monster attacking them immediately after. I feel like that was kind of the only downside to this book, and I wish it was just a little bit more mature, where I know they're like young adult, like very young adult books, but I feel like because we have kind of watched Percy Jackson grow up throughout the series, I would have liked if Percy Jackson showed just a bit more maturity in this final book. Okay, so those are kind of what I've been reading so far this year. I definitely need to read a lot more. I'm hoping this summer I can catch up a little, but now I want to go into my haul of books that I have got to start reading, and I'm so excited for these. So this is the first one I got. It's Emily Henry, People We Meet on Vacation, and I actually started this. I'm about a third of the way in, and so far I'm really loving this book. It's a really easy romantic comedy to get involved in. I love it because she's the lead character, Poppy. The lead character, Poppy, is a travel writer. And kind of the whole book follows like different trips that she's gone on, and then I'm assuming what's going to be like her eventual like confession of love, like to her best friend who she's gone all these travels with. So it's been a really fun read. I'm hoping to finish it pretty soon, but yeah, it's just a fun summer read. The next one I've heard a lot about, and this is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I've heard a lot about Holly Black's writing, and I'm super excited to give her a try. I don't know what to expect. I haven't read much about it, but I know that I opened the cover of the book and there's this stunning fantasy map, and I just had to get it. So that's what happened. I got it, and I'm super excited to read it. Next up is Ink and Bone by Rachel Kane, and it's part of like the Great Library series. And I just thought that it looked so cool. I love the cover of it and the sides, and I was just like, you know what? I absolutely adore magical libraries and books, so I think this would be a really good addition to read about. So can't wait to get started on this one. All right, and the last book of the haul, and I cannot wait for this, and I had to get it when I saw it, is Scattered Showers, which is a series of love stories from Rainbow Rowell. So obviously having the Simon Snow trilogy being fresh in my brain, I was like, oh man, she has this beautiful book about different love stories, and I just absolutely love the cover of how it's so pretty with the rainbow, and I love that there's a little like bookmark here, and the pages are blue on the side. And there's little illustrations. I'm obsessed. Also, real quick, I have to go back and talk about this. The interior of this book is gorgeous, and it's what I aspire for when I publish my books. It is the fan art. I want to see even the fan art. The art in this book on the front and the back sleeve is absolutely stunning. I love it. So, yeah. So we will see what I will be reading next month and into the future, but I kind of want to start doing these videos, just a combination of what I've been reading recently with some like just different writing vibes. I am super excited for the release of my book. I can't wait to share more information about it in the upcoming months, but yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and remember, adventure starts with you. Thanks for watching.